Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway. Shop online and get $30 off your first online order when you use code SAVE30 at checkout. Get the same prices, deals, and rewards as in-store. Get started at Safeway.com or the Safeway app.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.
The Renaissance Fair is in full swing, but if you haven't had a chance yet to visit and enjoy a turkey leg, you might want to know that the way tickets are being purchased has changed because the festival has been so popular this year. Now, it will sell only a limited number of online tickets for each day of the weekend. It may still be hot out there, but hopefully that means it'll be a little less crowded. I'm Bazi Kanani. Coming up, whether your overtime pay and tips will be taxed in Colorado since the feds gave it a pause for a few years.
That window could be even shorter in Colorado, at least for some of this income.
Then it's not just magic mushrooms that might have therapeutic benefits. Hear about another type of psychedelic our state is reviewing.
It's also distinct and in some ways more powerful.
And a celebration of a Colorado town where water tasting is a thing.
It has like a flavor to it. I don't know exactly what fizzy, yeah.
It's Friday, July 18th. Here's the news in Colorado today. Do you get tips or overtime pay at work? If so, you may be thrilled about part of President Trump's new tax law that means the federal government will stop collecting taxes on those parts of your paycheck, at least temporarily. But Colorado is not ready to follow suit for state taxes on tips and overtime, at least not entirely. CPR editor Megan Verlee is here to break this down for us. Megan, now that we have a new tax law, how soon does someone get to stop paying taxes on tips and overtime pay?
Well, it's actually retroactive. So any tip or overtime income that you've earned since January of this year, you get to deduct from your federal taxes when you go to do them next year. And at least as things stand now, your Colorado state taxes also won't count tips and overtime in this calendar year.
This year. Why is that?
Well, because state income taxes typically follow federal taxes in terms of what's exempted. So when the feds create a new deduction, that automatically goes into the Colorado tax code unless lawmakers act, which is something I think we are going to talk about.
We will. But first, there are some limits to these new tax breaks on tips and overtime, right?
Yes, there's a cap on both deductions. So for overtime, it's $12,500 for a single filer, double that for a joint. For tips, the cap is $25,000 for a single filer. And if you make more than that in tips or overtime, you will have to pay taxes on that income. Also, both deductions peter out if you're making more than $150,000 a year. And this is a temporary tax holiday, so it ends at the end of 2028. We're really only talking a handful of years here.
Not permanent then.
And that window could be even shorter in Colorado, at least for some of this income, because Colorado has changed its tax law to try not to lose out on overtime income taxes starting next year.
Tell me about that. How has Colorado changed its law?
Well, this spring, as the federal changes were taking shape, Democrats at the state capitol passed a tax law change that adds overtime taxes into Colorado's tax code, even if they are deductible at the federal level. But they set the timeline to take effect in 2026. So you get a one-year holiday on your overtime taxes at the state level, and then it'll kick back in the next tax year. But there is actually a twist on all of this, which is that the debate over taxing tips and overtime has sparked a group in Colorado to try to write that federal tax break into our state code and to do it permanently.
And how do they intend to do that, given that there may be a majority of state lawmakers in opposition?
Well, this is being proposed as a ballot measure for next year, so it would be voters doing it, not lawmakers. And it would ask you whether you want to make Colorado tips and overtime tax-free in perpetuity in state taxes. The group behind it is called Advance Colorado. They're a conservative group that's tended to push fiscally conservative ballot measures in recent years with, mixed success from voters. I think it's fair to say that this is an idea that is not super popular with Democrats at the state capitol. Creating permanent tax breaks for tips and overtime could mean even less ability to shore up the state's safety net for things like Medicaid and food stamps.
I would assume that not collecting taxes on tips and overtime would mean less money for the state. How much revenue could be lost here?
Well, we don't know yet. I keep expecting to see those numbers released by the state, but I think what's happening is that tips and overtime income tax is not something the state's ever had to break out before, so they actually really probably don't know yet how much they could be losing with this change. It's just not a number at their fingertips. It's also hard to say how this change will affect the state budget. And that's because right now the state is bringing in more money than it's actually allowed to spend under the Tabor cap, the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. And so it's been sending money back in refunds to Coloradans as tax credits and refund checks. Well, this lost tax revenue means smaller tax credits, smaller refunds, but not a direct hit to the state budget, at least not as things stand right now.
CPR Public Affairs Editor Megan Verlee, thank you.
Thank you.
You've heard about psilocybin, the hallucinogenic and magic mushrooms that can now be used at therapy centers in Colorado. But how much do you know about ibogaine? It was one of 3 other psychedelic substances that Colorado voters started to decriminalize in 2022 at the same time. You can grow and use ibogaine yourself, though it can't be sold legally yet. It is now under formal review by the state for treating addiction.
I guess in some ways, ibogaine is similar to mushrooms in the sense that it's a powerful psychedelic that produces an altered state. But it's also distinct and in some ways more powerful.
That's Jonathan Dickinson. We spoke with him as part of the CPR News series The Trip, about Colorado's legalized psychedelic journey. Dickinson uses ibogaine at his therapy center in Mexico, where it was already legal.
What it is it comes from the iboga shrub of Central Africa. And in Gabon, particularly, this is a very small country. It's been used for thousands of years in healing and ceremonies.
Dickinson says many clients come in when they're struggling to get off heroin or fentanyl. He says ibogaine reduces many withdrawal symptoms.
Even most of the cravings that follow. So it sort of puts people 6 or 9 months ahead in their recovery journey, physically, mentally, and emotionally.
He also uses ibogaine to treat veterans with PTSD and traumatic brain injuries. It's even being used for neurological conditions like Parkinson's and MS. He explained what a treatment session looks like.
So when people come to us and we spend some time preparing, we have a lot of diagnostic tests. Ibogaine is not without risks. There are cardiac risks. We also have to make sure that there's not any kind of medication interaction or drug interaction. And then the treatment takes place often overnight. People will end up taking ibogaine in a capsule and go through what most people describe as a challenging psychedelic journey with their eyes closed, laying down, and the sort of parade of imagery or even just thoughts and emotions and feelings that comes up under the effect. We do provide ongoing support as people get home and navigate that.
For people willing to take the risks and invest the time and money in ibogaine treatment, we asked Dickinson, how well does it work?
People who are coming off opioids have a massive improvement and have an easier time going through withdrawal and a reduced amount of cravings. Whether or not that translates into long-term abstinence, obviously there's a whole other set of variables that contribute to that. But I would say that everybody benefits from it to some degree.
While that's his experience, Dickinson acknowledges there's not yet much research to back up the benefits of ibogaine that he sees at his center.
There's something quite opaque about its pharmacology and its mechanisms of action, and we don't necessarily understand it fully because it looks like it's doing lots of things at the same time.
He's hopeful that more research is coming soon. The state of Texas is investing $50 million to study ibogaine, and he believes other states may follow suit. But FDA trials and approval could be a long process. Dickinson believes the decriminalization of ibogaine in Colorado allows for progress in the meantime.
I think Colorado has a fantastic opportunity to lead the way for what it would look like to deliver ibogaine therapeutically in the United States.
For now, ibogaine is only allowed for personal use. Some therapists may assist those who have their own plant. Depending on the results of the formal review, Colorado lawmakers could permit ibogaine to be used in therapy centers, just like psilocybin, next year. Tomorrow is July 19th, or 719, which may be the area code on your phone. It's part of the identity of Southern Colorado, so much so that we're calling it 719 Day, and for the second year running, we're celebrating it. To give you a taste, we visited Manitou Springs to learn about the town's geology and its 8 famous springs, which have been there for millennia. Doug Edmondson is a 4th-generation Manitoid and the sitting president of the Mineral Springs Foundation. He gives tours of the historic springs. Some of our highlights start a little off the beaten path at the spring that tastes most like regular water. It was first drilled in 1909.
7 Minute Spring was the first large-scale project where we had a spring that was basically just abandoned, derelict. We didn't give it much thought until we were prompted by concerned citizens that this is something that needs to be preserved.
To Jamie Young, who owns Toasted Bistro in town, the water is important for his business.
I make lemonades with the 7 Minute Spring water, and they're quite popular. I typically have 6 or 8 different flavors of it.
Then we head to Navajo Spring, which is along the main drag right at the heart of town. It was a popular place for indigenous peoples.
This is a photograph of Navajo Spring in 1870 when there was no development around it at all. And in 1890, there used to be a rotunda around this spring. They tore that down, but this still was harvesting carbon dioxide and water to be sent over to the bottling works. Mainly it was the Utes, a band of Utes called the Tabawash that occupied this area.
What did the people on Edmondson's Springs tour think about that water?
Yeah, a little carbonated, a little bitter, maybe a little salty too.
I don't know. It tastes better than the last one. It tastes cleaner. Like, it doesn't taste as like soda watery as the other one. It has like a flavor to it. I don't know exactly. Fizzy. What? Fizzy, yeah.
That's Bella Gomez from San Diego and Lily Williams from Austin. Edmondson has been doing these tours for years.
When I give a tour or I talk about the springs, I like to call Iron Spring the vampire spring because of the taste of iron and because blood obviously has a natural coppery, irony taste to it. So it's pretty obvious by the red stains on the stone and whatnot. But Iron Spring, you can hear it hammering. There's actually, again, so much carbon dioxide pressure that as it comes out, you can see the pressure and the gases escaping from it. And this is why Iron Spring Geyser gets its name, because it has a geysering effect.
He never tires of sharing with others the stories and natural beauty of the region.
I think, for me personally, preserving such an ancient resource, amateur geologists and environmentalists, to make sure that this is available for folks as they come and visit our wonderful community, the history behind it, being a 4th-generation Manitou native, and most of all, what it means to our community and how it makes folks feel when they come to Manitou Springs to see a town that cares so much about its history and its resources.
You can join our 719 celebration at KRCC in Colorado Springs tomorrow. That's from 11 to 3. Find the details in our show notes. And while you're at it, you can tour Manitou Springs nearby. Thanks to CPR's Stephanie Rivera for that visit to Manitou Springs. Additional reporting for today's show also came from CPR's Andrea Dukakis, Molly Cruz, and Benta Birkeland. Before we go, I want to note that we are watching the congressional votes on federal funding for public media, which includes the organization that produces this podcast. We'll bring you more analysis of how it affects Colorado as we get it. Please know that the most reliable and sizable part of our budget is contributions from listeners who support this nonprofit news source. You can find out more or consider making a donation at the link in our show notes. I'm Bazi Kanani. This is CPR News.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway. Shop Safeway's brands and get high-quality essentials for low prices. From Signature Select, Lucerne, and O Organics, you can save more on your favorites. Get started at Safeway.com or in the Safeway app. Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.